This is Coffee with God, and I am Father Jose. Let us begin this day with the Word of God and a short reflection.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke, chapter 16, verses 1 to 13. Passage is taken from the Message version of the Bible. Jesus said to his disciples, "There was once a rich man who had a manager. He got reports that the manager had been taking advantage of his position by running up huge personal expenses. So he called him in and said, 'What is this I heard about you? You were fired, and I want a complete audit of your books.' The manager said to himself, 'What am I going to do? I have lost my job as manager. I'm not strong enough for a laboring job, and I'm too proud to beg. I've got a plan. Here is what I do. Then when I'm turned out into the street, people will take me into their houses.' Then he went at it, one after another. He called in the people who were in debt to his master. He said to the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 jugs of olive oil. The manager said, 'Here, take your bill. Sit down here. Quick now. Write 50. To the next he said, 'And you, what do you own?' He answered, 100 sacks of wheat. He said, 'Take your bill. Write in 80. Now, here's a surprise. The master praised the crooked manager. And why? Because he knew how to look after himself. Streetwise people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens. They are on constant alert, looking for angles, surviving by their wits. I want you to be smart in the same way, but for what is right, using every adversity to stimulate you to creative survival, to concentrate your attention on the bare essentials, so you will live. Really live, and not complacently just get by on good behavior. God sees behind appearances." Jesus went on to make these comments. "If you're honest in small things, you will be honest in big things. If you're a crook in small things, you will be a crook in big things. If you're not honest in small jobs, who will put you in charge of the store? No worker can serve two bosses. He will either hate the first and love the second, or adore the first and despise the second. You can't serve both God and the bank." The Gospel of the Lord.
Reflections on the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 16, verses 1 to 13. The parable of the fraudulent steward arouses a little confusion among the readers. The steward was accused of squandering his master's wealth, to which he does not try to mutter any explanation. The master fires him from the job. What to do now? It is this question that many people ask themselves in the Gospel of Luke and in the Acts of the Apostles. The crowd, the publicans, the soldiers addressed John the Baptist asking, "What must we do?" The rich fool of the parable, in his long soliloquy, asked the same question, "What must I do, because I do not know where to place my harvest?" The listeners of St. Peter's discourse on Pentecost Day put it to themselves in the Acts of the Apostles, "Brothers, What must we do? It is a question for anyone who has to make choices in life. After much thinking, the steward in the parable exclaims happily, "I know what I must do." He calls all the debtors of his master and offers them a massive discount on their debts. In the future, these benefited debtors would undoubtedly feel obliged to offer him hospitality in their houses. The story concludes with the landowner and Jesus praising the steward. However, the confusion is whether Jesus recommended his disciples imitate this dishonest steward. How could Jesus recommend a dishonest person to be a model? This difficulty would not exist if the parable is interpreted a bit differently. If the steward had genuinely offered such considerable discounts to the debtors of his master, that would be a massive loss for the master, and he would be outraged. However, here the master praises his former steward, meaning he has not lost anything. Then a reasonable argument is that the steward possibly decided to forego what he used to grab for himself as a commission. Instead, now he decides to give it back to the debtors. Use filthy money to make friends for yourself so that when it fails, these people may welcome you into the eternal homes. It synthesizes the whole teaching of the parable. Accumulated wealth, when not utilized to ease people's miseries, amounts to some form of injustice, exploitation, and misappropriation. Jesus teaches the method to purify the unfair riches. Material wealth can devalue, but our friends and human relationships will never. Jesus concludes his teaching affirming that no servant can serve two masters, God and money. However, we attempt to please both. One says, "Share your goods, help the brothers and sisters, forgive the debt of the poor," while the other repeats, "Think of your interests, ensure the ways to increase your profit, do savings for your future." It is impossible to please both riches and God. We either accept God's challenges or succumb to the lure of riches.